The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've talked about this before, but a viewer is writing in, and I can kind of just refer to the earlier videos, but it's always kind of fun to talk about. Question is a simple one. Perch, why don't U.S. comic makers go to a standard trade size for graphic novels? It seems like it would facilitate mass marketing. Just curious. Well, the answer to that is well, there's a simple and a complex answer. The complex answer first is that sometimes publishers will kind of piggyback on the run of another book, meaning some larger publisher, not a comic publisher, but maybe sometimes even school textbooks. There's a lot of different people that are pushing volume through a printer. Sometimes one of these bigger publishers will push a run or something through the printer, and the comic book is kind of gets a discount or gets a price break or gets a schedule increase by piggybacking on the back of whatever is going in front of it. And so, but in doing so, that means they need to adopt or basically get remnant paper and or this is a goofy way of describing it, but that is a practice. Now, I don't know that this happens as much today, but it used to happen more. That used to be one of the reasons. And it feels like that practice, even though it's not as much in play anymore, is still kind of stuck in people's heads. In addition to that, you might say, and you'd say correctly, but if all the comic book graphic novels standardized on a size, then you would have the volume, all combined, all put together. And that's mostly true, I think. Or you could standardize around something that is graphic novel related that's cramming through like a tankobon type style or size. I mean, even though Dogman looks like a different size and format in your hand to a classic tankobon, you'll notice that if you kind of peel away the hardcover and some of the elements of it, it winds up being a similar size format. And there's a reason for that. But anyway, that's the long and complicated answer. The short answer is just stupidity. I mean, just to be blunt, stupidity. And there's this odd thing that goes on in comics at times where people want to be fancy with, like, they want to get creative with things that they really shouldn't get creative about. Like, you talk to creative, like, I've always wanted to do a graphic novel in a prestige format that's at a unique size, and then it gives it, and as an artist, you probably have good reasons to do that. That probably sounds fun and different, and all the rest, and why not, right? But practically, it gets in the way of money, because whenever you start fooling around with different formats, you're giving the person at the other end of the chain, the person who's putting it on the shelves, more work to do. You're making their life a little bit more complicated. And God knows, if you're trying to make money in publishing, your goal should be to reduce, remove, eliminate friction. Friction being friction between getting your product in a box, out of the box, on the shelf, and into the hands of a customer who's going to buy it. And so if you're shipping things in all different formats, well, the stuff's going to be packed into the box differently. It's going to be all different shapes and sizes. It's going to be, when they get to the shelf space, they've got to make room for it, and they've got to figure out, where to put it, and it creates a junky looking mess on the shelf. And as silly and stupid as it sounds, bookshops, particularly the larger ones like your Barnes and Noble or big box stores like a Target or a Walmart, they like a standard format for things because they can adjust the shelf to optimize to that format. They can, this is why they like the tankobon size, because they can slap an extra shelf in kind of the standard, layout, because it's small enough it will fit kind of one additional row of books, and they put everything there. It looks neat and tidy. They can, arrange it the way they want, but it's very easy because there's not different shapes and sizes going on. It's all coming in, same format, and it works. It's straightforward, and you go talk to any bookseller and they will tell you, like, these are easy to put on the shelf. And that's a massive advantage that manga and a lot of the scholastic kid books have, because they standardize on the size, they make it very clean and easy for the shop. And so when the stuff comes in, the people are just they know exactly what to do with it. And I've been to Barnes and Noble, where different shops there, where you see next to the US bookseller shelf there is a cart that they've kind of wheeled out there and just parked next to the shelf with a bunch of the US graphic novels on there that are coming in at all different sizes. And to them, it's just such a headache and pain in the ass that they go, you know what, I just put it on this rolling cart. Somebody sent me a picture once, and it was meant to be like, look at this pathetic show. And it was pathetic, although not maybe for the reason the person sending the picture meant, where somebody just took the box that the books came in and just cut open the top and just set the box down next to the shelf. And there's a bunch of Marvel graphic novels in there. And it's like, screw it. Because it's like you see this shelf and it's packed and it looks chaotic. And that is the one thing to take away from a lot of these shelves. And you see the US graphic novels versus the stuff coming in from Japan, is like the US graphic novels looks like somebody just vomited all over the shelves. It's got 800 different sizes and different formats, and the trade dress is different consistently across everything, and it looks like a complete mess. And that's people in big box stores don't like that. It makes their job more difficult. Consumers don't like that because there is a lot of psychology and wisdom to the idea that you walk up to the shelf and you can quickly scan it with your eye and you can make choices based off of what you see there. And that is that's a simple kind of thing to do. And so if you make all those things more difficult for the people who are running the shop, for the consumer, for anyone, if you make it hard to find stuff, then they're less likely to buy it. It's as simple as that. And now I will say, if I put on a different hat, if I put on like the artist creative hat, I'm not an artist, but if I put on my, that I do love, the idea that, hey, look, we can be experimental and look at all these different sizes. And, here we're using a font here, a font there. I mean, my ADD self kicks in and starts to go crazy about that when you're talking about a series. But, there's something cool that every product is unique and creative. I mean, that's fun, but it's not good business. There's a big difference between, hey, I'm having fun, and hey, this is good for sales, good for the shop. And that's where I think a lot of this stuff lands. I would love for there to be just more consistency. I would love for there. I mean, it'd be cheaper, it'd be more efficient, it'd be better for sales. You'd see a lot more opportunities for how stuff could get out into market. Like, you can go down the list. Every aspect of this would be better if comics and graphic novels would standardize on a format and just go that way. And yeah, that format kind of has been picked. The world has just determined that the Tonkabon style, that size, Scholastic uses it as well, is a good size. You get more stuff on the shelf. It's nicely in the hand. I think the printing costs, there's some math I was hearing where if you print in the Tonkabon size, that you get a price cut because you can put more stuff on a roll. I mean, just that there's like all these practical reasons why that size, that format works for mass production of books. And if you are, again, if you're Marvel, if you're DC, for the love of God, just turn the crank and put books out in this format. It's right there in front of you. Easiest thing in the world. Barely an inconvenience, as they say. But anyway, I know I've talked about this before. It is somewhat aggravating because you go into a shop and it's right there in your face. It's super obvious, and yet you've got people who just continuously steer in the other direction, and it just blows your mind. Anyway, thank you very much for the question. If you have a question you'd like to ask, go into the description to the video. There's a link to email there, and I will be happy to answer it. But otherwise, you have a great day, and thanks for listening.